Good evening. I am Councillor Jackie Dudley, Chair of Council, and I would like to welcome you all to this full Council meeting. Before we sit down, I would like everyone to remain standing if you are able, as a mark of respect following the passing of former Councillor John Munsey and the former MP and politician Anne Widdicombe. John Munsey served as a councillor from August 1999 when he was elected in a by-election in the Adwick ward and served until he retired in May 2025. Along with the current Deputy Mayor, John was the longest serving councillor at Doncaster Council when he retired. During this time in office, John was a member of Cabinet, as well as holding the position of Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee for many years. He was a much-loved and well-respected member of this council, and he will be sadly missed. The circumstances reported in the media around the recent death of the former MP and public figure Anne Widdicombe have been deeply shocking. Anne served her country for many years and was known for her courage, independence, and willingness to speak her mind, and she possessed a love for animals and a great sense of humour. Throughout her life, she was a passionate advocate for the causes she believed in and remained committed to public service. Whatever our political differences today, we all recognise her contribution to public life. Anne's death serves as a reminder that those who hold public office and serve their communities at times face harassment, intimidation, and the most serious cases, violence. I understand further information around personal safety for councillors will be issued by the Governance Services following this meeting, and a briefing from South Yorkshire Police on personal safety for councillors will also be arranged, with details to be confirmed in due course. Our thoughts are with the families, friends, and all those affected by these recent losses. Please remain standing if you are able as we observe a minute's silence for John and Anne. Thank you. Please be seated. This meeting is proceeding on the basis that all elected members have read their agenda papers and understand the business on today's meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice, but should the alarm sound, please leave the chamber and turn right. Proceed down the stairway and through the emergency exit on the ground floor. Please assemble in the public square in front of Cast beyond the fountain. Anybody with mobility issues should wait in the refuge area near the lift and use the intercom to call for assistance. This meeting will be recorded and published on the Council's YouTube channel. By entering the Council chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcast by the Council. If anyone is intending to record or film any part of today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb proceedings. Please ensure your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. And finally, as the chamber is particularly warm this evening, please feel free to remove your jackets or adjust your clothing if that will make you feel more comfortable during the meeting. Thank you. Item 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies for absence from Councillors Guy Aston, Dave Knight, Kieran Lay, Lee Sammett, Will Shaw, Craig Ward and Chris Marriott. Are there any other apologies for absence?
Stephen Barnett and Councillor Jason Charity.
Item 2.
Bob Anderson, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2. To consider if the public and press are to be excluded from the meeting. There are no exempt items on today's agenda. Item 3. Declarations of interest. If anyone has an interest in any item on today's agenda, please can they declare it now or as soon as it becomes known to them. Can I also ask any members who may declare an interest to complete and submit the declaration of interest form to one of the governance officers after the meeting? Thank you. Item 4, meetings of the council, meeting held on 22 May 2026. There is one amendment to the minutes that has been brought to my attention. As I understand, Simeon Waller's name needs adding to the list of members who were in attendance for part 2 of the council AGM. Subject to this revision, do we agree that they are a true and accurate record?
Nick Smith.
Councillor Nick Smith.
Chair, I was present at that meeting, and I'm not down.
Oh. We'll put you in that.
And I'm not down. He's got me down as an apology, but I was there. I attended that one.
Right. I'm sure that'll be put down as well, yes. Councillor Tim Needham.
My name's Dan and I were definitely there.
Councillor Steve Cox.
My name's not in it either.
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know. Is that everyone that wasn't down? Shall I move on? Item 5, announcements. I have one announcement to make. Is there something else you want to tell? Neil Wood.
Chair, under Procedure Rule 17, motions without notice, I would like to propose that the order of business for the meeting is amended and that following any announcement by the elected mayor, any further announcements for the meeting are made after agenda item 12, questions by elected members in accordance with Council Procedure Rules 15.2 and 15.3.
I have had a request to change the order of business that following any announcements by the elected mayor, we reconvene announcements after an agenda item 12. Is that seconded? Is that agreed? Thank you. We will receive any announcements by the elected mayor now, and further announcements will be received after agenda item 12, questions by elected members. Say it again. Please do your announcements if you have any. No, I don't have any. Mayor Ros, do you have any announcements?
Yes, Chair.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. My first announcement is in relation to Doncaster Sheffield Airport. I hope that you councillors are finding the briefing sessions useful. These are your opportunities to ask any complex and confidential questions. I am pleased to announce to full council this evening that we have passed the latest gateway in our airspace change process, giving us the go-ahead by the Civil Aviation Authority for a public consultation to reinstate airspace around Doncaster Sheffield Airport in what is a crucial step in the process to fully reopen our airport. During the consultation, residents will be invited to view detailed plans and submit their views via the online consultation portal, with several in-person events also due to be held. Additionally, interested parties will be able to view physical copies of the documents associated with the consultation at several locations in the local area. There will be a number of key announcements and updates over the summer, of which we will keep all councillors updated on. I have a second announcement, Chair, so please bear with me, and it's to do with Anne Widdicombe, safety and division. My second announcement is in relation to the brutal attack and murder of a veteran politician and former Conservative Minister, Anne Widdecombe, which is now being investigated by counter-terrorism police. Although differing on politics, she was deeply grounded in her faith and known for her forthright views. Party politics are irrelevant. She was a 78-year-old woman murdered in her own home in a targeted attack, and the police have said they are still working to understand the motive. Just to reiterate the request of the police not to speculate, to respect investigation and criminal processes which is underway. We are living in a world with heightened tensions and division, often fueled by misinformation and international bad actors. I know that councillors within this chamber have faced death threats and threats of violence. This is deeply troubling, and I strongly encourage any councillor that experiences this to report it to the police. I believe that as a society and as elected representatives, we need to promote the importance of debate, not hate, to disagree agreeably, and disagree, not disrespect. As elected officials, we must constructively challenge, accept that people can have differing opinions, but ultimately remember that we are all here to deliver real benefits for the residents and businesses of Doncaster. We need to be a council of delivery, not division. Thank you, Chair.
I have one announcement to make. On behalf of the City of Doncaster Council, I would like to offer my congratulations and recognition to Doncaster resident Alan Dootson, who received an MBE for his services to cooperatives in the City of Sheffield in this year's King's Birthday Honours. Alan's work has helped establish, support and grow cooperatives, democratically owned and voluntary sector organisations in the region. Thank you. Mayor Jones, do you wish to make an announcement about anything else? No, it's all right, I'm sorry. Yes, you have, I'm sorry, we've done things in the wrong order. Item 6, questions from the public. There is one public question on today's agenda to the Mayor. I shall read out the question and allow Mayor Jones to respond. If the questioner is in the chamber, I will allow a supplementary question and a further response. I will read out the question from Derek Brooke. You're in. Given that officers have granted planning permissions and advertisement consent for ANPR car park systems at Wheatley Hall Retail Centre, will the Mayor confirm whether officers have carried out a borough-wide assessment of comparable private car parks? After comprehensive evidence submitted by myself shows non-compliance with policy and legislation, does she consider a reactive enforcement approach to be consistent with their statutory duty once they are aware of potential breaches? Or is she content that charges are being levied on Doncaster's residents by non-compliant car parking companies? Mayor Jones, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Brooke. The Council has not undertaken a borough-wide assessment of all privately operated car parks with ANPR systems. Planning permission and advertisement consent applications are determined on the individual merits, having regard to the relevant planning policies such as Doncaster Local Plan, legislation and information available at the time of determination. Whilst the Council recognises the concerns raised regarding compliance at private car parks, a borough-wide review of all private car parks would require significant resources and detailed site-by-site investigations, including the examination of individual planning histories, advertisement contents, and site-specific circumstances. The planning enforcement function is not intended to carry out broad, wide-ranging, speculative investigations in the absence of evidence indicating a potential breach at a particular location. Rather, the service operates on a proportionate and evidence-led basis, responding to specific allegations of planning control breaches that have been identified and reported. Undertaking a blanket review across the entire borough would divert resources from investigating known and evidence cases and is unlikely to represent an effective or proportionate use of public resources in the wider public interest. Accordingly, enforcement resources are focused on individual sites where information has been received, suggesting that a breach of planning control may have occurred and where further investigation can be justified. While local councils have a statutory duty to investigate alleged breaches, taking formal planning enforcement action is entirely discretionary. This council investigates all alleged breaches brought to its attention and determine what action, if any, is necessary in the public interest. Accordingly, where officers become aware of potential non-compliance, they will assess the evidence available and take action in line with the Council's adopted procedures and legislative powers. The Council does not regulate the levying of parking charges by private parking operators. However, where matters fall within the Council's planning or advertisement control powers, officers will consider any reported concerns and determine the appropriate course of action based on the circumstances of the case. I will take the opportunity to advise that planning application records, decisions and associated documentation are publicly available through the Council's public access system. Members of the public are therefore able to review planning permissions, advertisement consent and related information for individual sites.
I'm sorry, Mayor Jones, your time's up.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Brooke, would you like to ask a supplementary question? Mr. Brooke, can I remind you that you have up to 2 minutes to ask a supplementary question, which must arise directly out of the original question or the reply given.
First, I'd like to thank the Mayor for taking my question. It comes as a result of 2.5 years research on my part. I've used all the Council's publicly available resources, as you've put in your response. I then submitted on the 13th of May a comprehensive report to the Planning Department that lists only 2 car parks in the entire Doncaster area has actually got planning permission. They have acted on one of the ones that I've complained about, and they have written to those, and they have now put in retrospective planning. However, every other single car park in Doncaster has not got planning permission to operate as a car park, either for ANPR cameras, poles and advertising. These are unlawful sites, and the advertising also breaches Town and Country Planning Act, which is a criminal offence. I will ask the Mayor if she will now write or ask the officers to look at that report I've submitted and reply to me, because as of yet they've not responded, although the report has been viewed 136 times up until today. Thank you.
Mayor Jones, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Seen all of this that you've submitted. Can I ask that you submit it again to my portfolio holder, Councillor Gemma Cobby, and she will follow it up? Okay, thank you.
Item 7, Overview and Scrutiny Report 2025-2026. Can I invite Councillor Carl Hughes, Chair of OSMC, to propose this item? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. It is my privilege to present the Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report for 25-26. This report sets out the work undertaken over the past year to support effective governance, strengthen transparency and accountability, and contribute to informed decision-making across the City of Doncaster Council. Following my 6-monthly scrutiny update early in the year, the Overview and Scrutiny function has continued to place emphasis on developing members' capability, strengthening coordination across committees and panels, and ensuring that scrutiny remains focused, constructive and evidence-led in its approach. Throughout 25 and 26, Overview and Scrutiny has delivered a comprehensive programme of work aligned to the Council's corporate plan and priorities. The Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee has maintained oversight of financial performance, service delivery and key strategic decisions, including detailed consideration of the Council's budget proposals and major regeneration initiatives. This has been complemented by the work of the scrutiny panels, which have examined issues affecting residents across areas such as health and social care, children and young people, housing, regeneration, community safety and the environment. Throughout the year, committees and panels have sought to provide constructive challenge and support improvement, ensuring that decisions are informed, transparent and focused on achieving the best possible outcomes for residents. A key feature of scrutiny's work has been its commitment to robust, evidence-based review and provision of meaningful assurance to members and the communities we serve. A key feature of scrutiny this year has also been its ongoing commitment to incorporating the perspectives of residents and service users into its work. Contributions from individuals with lived experience, community representatives and partner organisations have strengthened the evidence base for decision making and helped ensure the scrutiny remains grounded in the realities facing local communities. I am particularly grateful for the constructive cross-party approach taken by members throughout the year. Effective scrutiny relies upon members working together in the interests of residents, and I believe that spirit has been evident across our committees and panels when examining issues of importance to the borough. This year has also provided an opportunity to reflect on how we can further strengthen and bring clarity to the governance arrangements that underpin overview and scrutiny. To support this, we will be developing a new and updated overview and scrutiny protocol during 26-27. This is not simply about updating governance documents. It is about ensuring there is a shared understanding of the role of scrutiny across the authority, supporting effective working relationships with the executive and partners, and providing a strong foundation for constructive challenge, transparency and accountability. This will be an important step in strengthening the effectiveness, consistency and understanding of scrutiny processes across the Council. Looking ahead to 26-27, overview and scrutiny will continue to build on the progress made this year. The focus will remain on improving outcomes for residents through targeted evidence-based review work, strengthened forward planning and continued development of members in their role. Ensuring that scrutiny adds demonstrable value to decision-making whilst maintaining transparency and accountability will remain central to this work. It is within this context that we will be providing regular constructive and rigorous scrutiny of the arrangements to reopen Doncaster Sheffield Airport during the year, helping to support openness, transparency and accountability in relation to this significant economic project for the borough and wider region. As Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, I remain committed to ensuring that scrutiny continues to evolve, remains independent and constructive, and provides meaningful assurance to both members and the residents we serve. Finally, I'd like to place on record my thanks to all members, co-optees, officers and partners who have contributed to the work of Overview and Scrutiny over the past year. Their commitment, professionalism and willingness to engage positively in the scrutiny process are vital to ensuring that scrutiny continues to play an effective role within the Council's governance arrangements. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Steve Cox, I think you wish to second the report?
I do, and I think you'll be pleased to know I've got nothing further to add than Chair's already mentioned. So, thank you.
If any member wishes to speak on this item, please indicate by pressing the button on your console once. No. Does anyone else wish to speak before I offer Councillor Hughes his right of reply? No, it's been moved and seconded. No, it hasn't. And Scrutiny Annual Report 2025-2076 be received and noted. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 8, additional independent member of the Audit Committee. This report seeks approval to appoint 2 independent members to the Audit Committee. There is currently one independent member co-opted to the Audit Committee, but in line with CIPFA best practice guidance, it is now recommended that 2 independent members are appointed to enable independent advice, robust challenge and added value to the work of the Audit Committee. Does anyone wish to speak on this item? Neil Wood, Councillor Neil Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Having read what it's saying about recommendations, and it's only recommendation, it's voluntary, it's not something we've got to do. And taking into consideration it does have a financial hit on the council, it's only less than £1,000, but it's still there, isn't it? Every little helps, as the saying goes. So I think personally we shouldn't need to go for 2 co-opted. We just stick with the one that we've already got. If we did need one, I think the report says that it was said in 2020 that you should possibly look at 2 for best practice, and we've had 6 years to do it, so we've done without one for 6 years, so why do we need to do one now? Thank you.
Is there a proposal to approve the recommendations within the report? Is that agreed? Does anyone wish to speak on this item? No, they don't. Councillor Jane Cox.
As a relatively new vice chair of audit, and this is just my opinion, I think having independent people is really helpful because it just gives us it gives you an opinion that's not a council or an auditor or a councillor. It's just an independent person who you hope, obviously they're going to be new, but you hope is from the audit world and can point you in the right direction of asking the correct questions. So I get what you're saying about the finances, but from my perspective, audit committee, 2 to me is a bonus. Because what the gentleman we've had previously hasn't really been around anyway.
Councillor Gemma Cobby.
His points regards to audit last year, so we did have like an independent member missing for most of those meetings, so having 2 just saves in case one of them can't be able to attend those meetings.
Councillor Howard Rimmer.
Thank you, Chair. Whatever the cost is, and it's £1,000 or whatever, I'm sure that that amount could be recouped by having an extra independent member.
Item 9, motion on notice. Oh. Does anyone else wish to speak on this? Is there a proposal to approve the recommendations within the report? Is that agreed? Oh, right, I can hear you, thanks. Item 9, motion on notice. Can I ask Councillor Nicky Brown to propose this motion? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I bring this motion with both professional and personal conviction and purpose. Violence against women and girls is not an abstract statistic. It is the lived reality of women across the city, nationally. At least 1 woman a week is killed by a partner or ex-partner. 1 in 4 women will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. This motion asks us to reaffirm our zero tolerance commitment, embed safety into our services, strengthen partnerships with organisations doing vital work on the ground, and a call on government to fund those services properly. Points 5 and 6 on employment practice, DBS checks and historic misconduct carry particular weight. Due diligence in our employment practice protects the most vulnerable people in our city. So I'd just like to ask every member if they can to support this motion. Every woman and girl in Doncaster deserves to live free from fear and violence.
Does any member wish to speak on this item? Gemma Cobby is seconding this motion. Councillor Cobby, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Chair. I support this motion and happy to second it. Since I was elected in 2021, the violence against women and girls agenda has always been at the forefront as my agenda as a councillor. And during that time, we saw the high-profile deaths of Sever Everard and sisters Bieber Henry and Nicole Smallman, who were women targeted for just being women living their lives during COVID, but yet were failed by services who were meant to keep them safe from harm and provide dignity post-death. Therefore, as an immediate response, two non-council friends and I formed Doncaster Fog Community Group, which annually marks important dates such as International Day of Eliminating Violence Towards Women and Girls on 25th of November and International Women's Day on the 8th of March, alongside holding organisations such as the British Transport Police, SIMCA, Doncaster Council and South Yorkshire Police to account and work collaboratively with them to provide a grassroots, diverse and lived experience approach and voice to improving the safety and security for all residents in Doncaster. The group consists of several residents from various backgrounds and communities and domestic abuse services such as Phoenix Women's Aid and Resolute in Barnsley, who lead the agenda and help form organisations such as Hay Safe Haven, where members are also volunteers keeping women safe during the nighttime economy. At Doncaster Council and within the wider Doncaster Partnership, we are seeing ongoing developments in tackling VOG, from hospitality businesses signing up to the Best Bar None scheme to domestic abuse survivor-led feedback and involvement with the Domestic Abuse Hub, and seeing the delivery of educational relationship sessions in schools. Also, we now have councillors agreeing to undertake DBS checks, which I encourage all councillors to do if they haven't already, to enhance the safety of our communities. However, we can always continue to improve, and we've now taken on the community safety as part of my portfolio. It has continued to remain as one of my priorities. And last month, as part of my role, I attended a strategy VOG meeting where Rider Partnership noted more adequate funding is required to further enhance delivery, and therefore I support the ask in this motion to government to increase resources available to local authorities, domestic abuse charities and our frontline services. It is important for us to pass this motion today to raise an awareness, but also particularly to highlight to the new Prime Minister to ask to continue prioritising tackling VOG as part of the government's new agenda. And I also want to highlight that Doncaster VOG Community Group will be hosting a Reclaim the Night event on Friday the 14th of August at 7 p.m. from the train station to highlight the importance of safety, of reporting, along with bringing our communities together.
Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ken Guest.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I support this motion because tackling violence against women and girls requires more than words. It requires strong safeguarding, robust accountability and sustained support for those affected. The motion rightly highlights the importance of employment checks, safeguarding procedures and reviewing concerns whenever new evidence comes to light. Public confidence depends on knowing that institutions will always put safety first. But accountability is only one side of the equation. The other is ensuring that support is available when people need it most. Here in Doncaster, we have seen real progress. The Domestic Abuse Hub provides a single point of access for victims seeking help, bringing together specialist agencies so that people receive coordinated support rather than being passed from service to service. We have also expanded specialist accommodation for victims fleeing abuse through partnership working between the council, IDAS and housing providers. Safe accommodation has been significantly increased, ensuring more victims and survivors have somewhere secure to turn when they need to escape dangerous situations. Across South Yorkshire, successful campaigns such as No More, Do More and the Violence Reduction Unit's Every Man Can initiative have challenged misogyny, encouraged bystander intervention and promoted positive role models. These campaigns recognise an important truth. We cannot arrest our way out of this problem. We must also prevent it by changing attitudes and behaviours. The motion is also right to call on the government for adequate funding. Local authorities, police forces, charities and support organisations are doing exceptionally well, but they cannot continue to meet the growing demand without sustainable resources. Chair, the City of Doncaster has already shown leadership in this area. This motion allows us to reaffirm that commitment and strengthen it further. By supporting it here today, we send a clear and united message. Violence against women and girls has no place in Doncaster, no place in South Yorkshire, and no place in our society. I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Jane Kidd.
Thank you, Chair. While this motion rightly focuses on the safety of women and girls, it is important to recognise that men have a vital role to play in prevention. Most men would never commit acts of violence against women and girls. However, preventing violence is not simply about those who offend. It's about creating a culture where disrespect, harassment, intimidation and misogyny are challenged wherever they appear. Across South Yorkshire, campaigns such as No More and Every Man Can have encouraged men to become active allies, to challenge harmful behaviour and to be positive role models in their families, workplaces, schools and communities. These initiatives recognise that lasting change comes when men are part of the solution, not simply observers of the problem. Men can call out inappropriate comments. Men can challenge sexist attitudes among friends and colleagues. Men can intervene safely when they witness harassment. Men can teach boys about respect, consent, equality and healthy relationships. And men in leadership positions can help create workplaces and organisations where women feel safe, respected and valued. Too often, harmful behaviour is dismissed as banter or ignored because it appears minor. Yet we know that challenging these behaviours early helps create a culture where serious abuse is less likely to flourish. If we are serious about ending violence against women and girls, then this cannot be seen as a women's issue alone. It is a responsibility for all of society, and men must be prepared to stand alongside women and be part of the change we want to see. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Tim Needham.
Thank you, Chair. I am proud to support this motion today because it is about more than policy. It is about the kind of city we want Doncaster to be. Every woman and girl should be able to walk through our town centres, use public transport, enjoy our parks, go to school, go to work and return home without fear. Yet for far too many, the threat of harassment, abuse and violence remains a daily reality. What is particularly important about this motion is that it recognises violence against women and girls is not just a policing issue, it is a social issue, a public health issue, a safeguarding issue and a community issue. That means all of us have a role to play. I am pleased that Doncaster has already shown leadership in this area. We have worked with South Yorkshire Police and local partners to improve public safety through better lighting, CCTV investment and the redesign of public spaces. We have delivered educational programmes in schools, tackled issues such as upskirting through the EPIC project and established dedicated forums to focus specifically on the experiences of women and girls. These initiatives matter because they recognise the important truth. Women should not have to change their behaviour in order to stay safe. It is society that must change the behaviours and attitudes that allow violence, harassment and intimidation to occur in the first place. That is why the wider work taking place across South Yorkshire is so important. Campaigns such as No More and Every Man Can are encouraging men to challenge misogyny, become active allies and to help create a culture where disrespect and abuse are never normalised or excused. I also welcome the motion's emphasis on supporting victims and survivors. We know that coming forward is often the hardest step. People need confidence that when they speak up they will be believed, supported and protected. Doncaster's domestic abuse hub and our partnership approach to tackling domestic and sexual abuse are excellent examples of agencies working together to provide that support. Chair, this motion is measured, reasonable and practical. It reaffirms our commitment to prevention, support, safeguarding and accountability. Most importantly, it sends a clear message that in the city of Doncaster we will continue striving to ensure that every woman and every girl can live with the safety, dignity and freedom that they deserve. I am pleased to support this motion and urge all members to do likewise. Thank you.
Councillor Rob Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to support this motion because it reflects a fundamental belief. Every woman and girl in Doncaster has the right to live free from fear, violence and abuse. Violence against women and girls remains one of the most significant challenges facing our communities, whether it's domestic violence, stalking, sexual harassment, coercive control or violence in public spaces. The impact is devastating not only on the victims, but survivors and the families and communities as a whole. The Council have examples of practical working that is making a difference. This includes working alongside South Yorkshire Police, local partners, and the Council secured Safer Streets funding to improve lighting and CCTV in areas where women feel unsafe. The Council have redesigned parks and public spaces with women and girls in mind and invested in measures that improve both public safety and the perception of that safety as well. Importantly, this motion recognises the value of partnership working. Doncaster's Domestic and Sexual Abuse Partnership brings together agencies from across the borough. Doncaster Abuse Hub provides coordinated support through the Council, Children's Services, Riverside and Phoenix Women's Aid. This motion builds on that progress. It says clearly that we will work together, continue to improve and continue to stand with victims and survivors. I'd like to thank Councillor Nicola Brown for bringing this motion to the Council, as well as my friend Councillor Gemma Cobby, who has worked tirelessly on this in her various roles since she was elected. And I'd like to reiterate the event taking place on the 14th of August at 7 p.m. at the train station, organised by various organisations for Reclaim the Night. There are a whole host of people working on this issue, helping to make Doncaster a safer place for women and girls.
Councillor Howard Rimmer.
Thank you, Chair. I wholeheartedly agree with the motion, the safety of women and girls. I do, however, wonder why we have this motion, because 5 Labour councillors have taken at least 5 minutes each to reiterate what the council are already working at. The motion says reaffirm, continue, and review. So everything in the motion is already in action.
Councillor Steve Plater.
Thank you, Chair. Our society isn't worth a lot if we can't protect and safeguard our women and girls. This ought to be a priority for this council, and it ought to be a priority for this government. I'm happy to support it.
Councillor Brown, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you. That's fine.
We shall now move to the vote. Can I remind members not to press your buttons until I have opened the vote, and please be aware that your vote will not count when the vote has been closed. Please either press the green button for yes, the red button to vote no, or the blue button to abstain. I am now opening the vote. Please vote now. I am now closing the vote. "45 yes, 1 abstention. The motion is declared carried by that amount of votes. Item 10, motion on notice. We now move to the second motion on the agenda. Can I ask Councillor Cynthia Ransom to propose this motion? Councillor Ransom.
Thank you, Chair. This council notes on the 19th of September 2019, full council declared a climate and biodiversity emergency. The council subsequently adopted voluntary ambitions to reduce borough-wide carbon emissions by 85% by 2030 against a 2005 baseline, and to achieve net zero emissions by 2040. The council's own monitoring has concluded that at the present rate of emissions reductions, neither the 2030 target nor the 2040 ambition is likely to be achieved. An emergency declaration is a political and policy statement. It does not replace or alter the Council's statutory, environmental, planning, biodiversity, air quality and food risk duties. More than 6 years after the declaration was made, it is reasonable for full Council to reconsider whether the continued designation of a climate emergency remains necessary, proportionate and useful. Environmental policies should be affordable, deliverable, transparent and balanced against the Council's responsibilities for public services, economic regeneration, employment, housing and the protection of vulnerable residents. This Council resolves to rescind with immediate effect the climate emergency element of the declaration approved by full Council on the 19th of September 2019, to confirm that this decision does not remove or weaken the Council's statutory environmental responsibilities, to reaffirm the Council's commitment to protecting biodiversity, productive agricultural land, landscapes, air quality, communities and food resilience, to require that any future voluntary citywide emissions targets exceeding national statutory requirements must be accompanied by a published assessment of cost, deliverability, economic consequences and the effects on the Council's services before being submitted to full Council for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Rachel Reid is seconding this motion. Councillor Reid, would you like to speak?
I am pleased to second this motion. This is not about denying climate change or abandoning our environmental responsibilities. This motion makes it clear that the Council will continue to meet all of its statutory duties on biodiversity, flood risk, air quality and environmental protection. The question before us is whether maintaining a climate emergency declaration still serves a useful purpose. The Council's own monitoring tells us that the voluntary ambitions it adopted are not on track to be achieved. It is therefore reasonable to review whether those ambitions remain realistic, proportionate and deliverable. It is also worth remembering just how ambitious the Climate Commission's recommendations were. They called for significant reduction in admissions, dedicated climate leadership, specialist staffing, dedicated budgets, regular reporting and climate considerations to be embedded across Council decision making. The Commission itself acknowledged that many of these changes would be substantial, costly and dependent on significant government funding and investment. We also have a duty to ensure taxpayers' money is spent wisely. Every pound spent on voluntary initiatives is money that cannot be spent on frontline services such as social care, highways or supporting vulnerable residents. This motion encourages greater scrutiny and ensures that any future voluntary environmental commitments are backed by clear evidence of cost, deliverability and impact before they are approved. Doncaster would not be alone in taking this approach. Other councils have already reviewed or rescinded their climate emergency declarations and moved towards practical environmental strategies that continue to protect the environment without maintaining an emergency declaration. These examples demonstrate that councils can remain committed to environmental protection whilst taking a balanced, evidence-led and financially responsible approach. This motion does not weaken environmental protection. It strengthens accountability, transparency and financial responsibility. In fact, the Climate Commission itself recognised that its plans would need to be reviewed and updated as circumstances changed. Reviewing the declaration now is entirely consistent with that principle. Thank you, Chair.
Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Rob Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. I propose an amendment which I believe the Governance Services have a copy of, which will be distributed. Am I all right to do my introductory note to the amendment? Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I want to acknowledge the proposer and the seconder for bringing this motion to full council. The climate and biodiversity emergency was introduced in 2019, so that's almost 7 years ago. It's right to review the council's political and policy positions after that substantial amount of time has lapsed, and to review the progress against the stated objectives. The council has made significant progress in its voluntary ambitions to reduce the borough-wide carbon emissions by 85% by 2030. In relation to the council-generated carbon emissions, against the baseline of just under 23,000 annual tonnes of carbon, up to March of this year, the council is recording carbon emissions of just under 7,000 tonnes. That represents a 71% reduction in the carbon emissions, which is only 14 percentage points away from the 2030 target. These improvements have been delivered through such actions as upgrading street lighting to LEDs, improving operational efficiency and controls in public buildings, installing solar panels and battery storage, and replacing our petrol and diesel transport fleet with electric vehicles. Progress has been notable through revoking the 4 air quality management areas across the borough. That includes Carhouse Road, Bawtry Road, Skello and Mar, which have been revoked as monitoring has demonstrated sustained compliance with the national air quality objectives over the last 5 years. Traffic count data shows that vehicle flows have increased slightly within these areas, indicating that the improvement in air quality is primarily due to reduced emissions and the increase of people having electric vehicles. The original motion does not reflect the positive progress that has been made, and instead seeks to rescind the climate element of the emergency that was made back in September 2019. This amendment provides the progress made and commits to review the emergency to understand what further evidence-based policies could be undertaken to achieve both those 2030 and 2040 targets. Climate change is happening. We have just experienced a second heat wave in as many weeks. There are progressive policy decisions that the council can make to decrease our carbon output further and help residents when there are extreme heat occurrences. I live in a new build house and it reached 31 degrees during the first heat wave. Modern houses are built to retain that heat during the winter, but they're extremely poor at losing that heat when it gets to hot summertime. The council could lobby for changes in the national policy planning framework and local plan to introduce these measures, such as aircon for all new build and high-rise properties. This would be slow to enact, but the council has the ability to influence local council housing policy, so that future St Ledger properties have air conditioning or other cooling measures. But not just this. Solar panels on St Ledger properties, as well as EV charging points on all properties as standard, to encourage the take-up of renewable energies and electric cars, enable substantial savings on household energy bills. Doncaster city centre is a concrete and brick jungle, but I know that through the city centre master plan, there are ambitions to build green corridors and more green spaces and biodiversity. This should not be isolated to the city centre, but also achieved in other urban town areas. Continuing to invest in electric vehicles within the council's fleet, saving money on fuel and maintenance costs, whilst also drastically reducing emissions. These are progressive policy ideas that take the council forward in its climate and biodiversity emergency ambitions, which are necessary so our future generations have a comfortable environment to live in. That is why I propose my amendment to this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Dennis has proposed an amendment to the motion. Does any member wish to second this amendment? And Majid. Do any other parties want an adjournment? Yes. We'll give you a 10-minute adjournment. Please come back at 7:05. Please be seated. Oh, yeah. Councillor David Nevitt.
I wasn't first.
No, it was Glyn Jones, actually, but I was instructed by my lovely man here, sorry. Councillor Glyn Jones.
Yes, Chair. Before I respond and speak to this amended motion, I would like to request a recorded vote throughout all proceedings on this particular motion, Chair. Okay, I'll continue.
Agreed. Carry on.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, I would like to speak in relation to the net zero economy. The transition to net zero is often framed as a cost or a constraint on the economy, but a growing body of evidence, including this new suite of reports from Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit and the Confederation of British Industry Economics, points to a different and more compelling story. Net zero is already one of the UK's most productive and geographically distributed industrial sectors, generating high-value employment, driving supply chain activity and anchoring the UK within one of the defining economic transformations of our era. The UK's net zero economy now generates around £105 billion in gross value added and supports 1.1 million full-time equivalent jobs spanning energy, manufacturing, construction, engineering and professional services. The sector is underpinned by more than 23,500 businesses, over 96% of which are small or medium-sized enterprises. Government plans and legislation are creating scalable and long-term opportunities for inward investment, jobs and growth in housing and buildings retrofit, electric transport and refuelling, energy generation and supply, woodlands creation and management and waste management. I believe there should be further research and investment in areas such as hydrogen, small modular reactors and tidal energy, with the potential to provide reliable, clean and affordable energy. In Doncaster, we have grasped the opportunity of investment and investor-save initiatives, bringing investment and jobs into Doncaster to reduce carbon emissions whilst also saving money for this council, alongside residents and businesses who have benefited from projects thus far. In relation to housing energy efficiency, we have secured £19 million of government funding, the highest level in South Yorkshire, and this is from both the current government and previous Conservative government. Doncaster has seen the most homes receiving housing retrofit in the whole of South Yorkshire, and over 8,500 energy efficiency measures have been installed to social and privately owned homes, including boilers, heat pumps, solar, wall insulation, loft and floor insulation. This investment is directly helping residents with lower energy bills, reducing cold-related illness, creating well-paid, long-term jobs for local residents and businesses. In relation to businesses, 169 businesses have been granted funds to improve the efficiency of their buildings, their transport fleet, energy supply and business processes, resulting in over £2 million of investment in improving efficiency and reducing operating costs for local business owners. In relation to council-owned property, the council has solar on 25 buildings and over 800 council homes, delivering real cost savings of circa £230,000 per year for the council, plus reduced electricity costs in the region of £290,000 for tenants. In relation to transport, this council has the highest number of electric vehicles in its fleet in South Yorkshire. I know that some councillors have been asking about the use of the electric fleet vehicles over the traditional petrol or diesel vehicles. However, electric vehicles have considerably lower energy and maintenance costs, meaning they actually save the council money from the revenue budget while also delivering improved health through improved air quality. Another prime example of investor save whilst reducing our carbon emissions. Through our 2 newly developed habitat banks, the council offers biodiversity net gain units for sale to developers to compensate habitats lost through new developments, ensuring developers are compliant with their planning obligations. This has created new income streams whilst enabling significant improvements in biodiversity locally. And finally, we were awarded UNESCO Biosphere Reserve candidate status in 2024, with the full application being submitted to UNESCO later this year, increasing opportunities for research and development, inward investment and international recognition for environmental development. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor David Nevitt.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the question before us is not whether we should continue to fulfil our statutory environmental duties. We will. The question is whether rescinding the climate emergency declaration helps Doncaster meet the very real environmental and economic challenges we face. The facts suggest it does not. In 2019, this council unanimously declared a climate and biodiversity emergency. That declaration was not simply symbolic. It led directly to the Environment and Sustainable Strategy, established clear targets and helped focus the efforts of the council, partners, businesses and residents on reducing emissions and improving biodiversity. We are told that because we may not meet our 2030 target, we should remove the emergency designation. But failure to be fully on track is not evidence that the challenge has disappeared. In fact, council reports have stated the opposite, that delivering net zero remains challenging and that failure to meet targets risks losing opportunities for green economic growth, health benefits and environmental improvements. When a target is difficult, the answer is not to abandon the sense of urgency. If anything, it strengthens the case for maintaining it. The declaration has also supported tangible action. More than 300,000 trees have been planted towards the commitment to plant 1 million trees. Doncaster has been recognised as a tree city of the world, and significant work has taken place on fleet electrification, energy efficiency and biodiversity enhancement. Climate change is not a future threat. Doncaster's communities have experienced devastating flooding and peatland fires in recent years, reminding us of the local impacts of extreme weather and environmental degradation, and very recently 3 public health alerts for heat and more on the way. Rescinding the declaration, I can't continue. Rescinding the declaration would save no money, create no jobs and reduce no bureaucracy, but it would send a message that the urgency has diminished when the evidence says otherwise. Let us improve our plans, strengthen accountability and review our targets where necessary, but let us not step backwards. Support the amendment. I will support it. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Isaiah John Riesbeck.
Thank you, Chair. Sea levels are rising, heat waves are becoming longer and more frequent, food shortages are becoming more numerous and water security is getting worse, all largely due to erratic change in the weather and seasons. We should be leading the way on climate change, not pushing it to one side, but setting an example. These are not issues in the distant future. These are issues now. This is an emergency. However, I do not believe that this issue should be attacked at any cost to the taxpayer. So I'll be voting for this amendment because it seeks to review instead of simply rescinding the climate emergency declaration.
Councillor Sue Farmer.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to speak in relation to our children and young people. We currently have over 60 schools in Doncaster by now environment and sustainability services, providing practical outdoor and classroom educational experience and meeting statutory compliance for environmental reporting, engaging young people and improving the education estate. We see solar panels installed on top of rooftops of our schools. Doncaster Council was awarded a £276,000 grant to install solar panels and battery storage. Beneficiaries include Hatchell Wood Primary School and the Hayfield School, with a projected combined annual saving of nearly £15,000. Both Trinity Academy and Don Valley Academy have been selected in the next round of Great British Energy's Solar for Schools programme, meaning they'll soon be generating clean, green energy right from their rooftops, aiming at cutting energy bills and improving local energy security. Intake Primary Academy, under a government infrastructure improvement scheme, the school renovated its roof and installed a new Marley solar tiled rooftop. Kirk Sandal Junior School installed solar panels utilising funding from the Drax Foundation to reduce their carbon footprint. Marshland Primary Academy used innovative green upgrades, pairing solar PV with ground source heat pumps to cut emissions by nearly 80%. In relation to trees and woodlands, Doncaster has secured the most funding to plant the most trees in South Yorkshire, with over 421,000 trees planted and over 247,000 tree seeds planted, meaning we are well on our target of 1 million trees planted across Doncaster by 2031. Increasing our tree canopy and woodlands for our communities and schools and helping to address the biodiversity emergency, which I see the motion does not call into question or is seeking to rescind. Tree canopies cover across the city of Doncaster is approximately 13% and is estimated to be the lowest in South Yorkshire. That is why Mayor Ros Jones committed to the Million Tree Challenge in 2021 to increase canopy cover to 17% by 2031. I'll still continue. Trees bring benefits to our communities, including helping to tackle climate change, cooling our streets, absorbing carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen, providing habitats and improving biodiversity, and also improving the visual appearance of streets and neighbourhoods. As a council, we are also developing environmental pride with the 73 communities projects initiated through the council's Environmental Pride grant, using £146,000 of external funding and sponsorship, investing in our communities to help them do more than environment and health and well-being. We have also delivered significant investments in our parks and green spaces across the city of Doncaster through the Doncaster Future Parks programme, delivered through Get Doncaster Moving, aiming to improve health, well-being and physical activity levels by creating more activities, accessibility and welcoming outdoor spaces, particularly in communities experience higher levels of deprivations. I will be supporting this amended motion. Thank you.
Mayor Ros Jones.
Thank you, Chair. In September 2019, this council unanimously voted in favour of declaring a climate and biodiversity emergency for Doncaster. This was a public commitment to recognise the urgent threat posed by climate change and to accelerate action to reduce carbon emissions, improve air quality, increase resilience to extreme weather and support the transitions to a sustainable, nature-friendly city for current and future generations. Major events quickly followed. We had floods in 2019, wildfires at Hatfield Moor and 3 heat waves during 2020, which led to 2,556 excess deaths in England, all showing the need to continue to adapt and build resilience to increase threats and risks. The UK experienced 4 distinct heat waves during the summer of 2025. This year, we have seen yet more records broken for heat in May and June. Taking a look at the farmland and green spaces across Doncaster in desperate need of rain, it's becoming even more apparent that unprecedented changes in UK climate are normalising extremes. As a council, we continue to take all opportunities to develop, support and take appropriate action to deliver positive outcomes for Doncaster residents, for which they continue to highlight environment as a priority. Whether it's flood defences, improving thermal efficiency of buildings and delivering solar panels on the rooftops of council buildings. Importantly, the council directly controls only a small proportion of borough-wide emissions. Success depends on leadership, partnership and influence. The declaration helps provide exactly that leadership. I agree that environmental policies must be affordable and deliverable, but maintaining the emergency declaration does not prevent rigorous scrutiny of costs, economic impacts of service implications. Those assessments can and do accompany major policy decisions, regardless of whether the declaration remains in place. The real question is this: what problem does rescinding the declaration solve? It does not alter legal duties, it does not reduce emissions, it does not protect more farmland, it does not improve flood resilience. In fact, all of those objectives are already embedded within the environmental ambitions established following the declaration. What rescinding it would do is to weaken the signal that Doncaster takes climate risk seriously. It could undermine confidence amongst partners, investors and organisations that have aligned themselves with the Council's environment commitments. Across the borough, we have seen progress: tree planting, biodiversity initiatives, electric vehicles, cleaner transport measures and energy efficiency projects. These are not reasons to end the declaration. They are evidence of why it mattered in the first place. If members believe targets need reviewing, let us review them. If we need stronger reporting, let's strengthen reporting. If we need better cost-effective analysis, let us require it. But declaring that the emergency is over when the challenge clearly remains would be wrong message at the wrong time. I would encourage all councillors and the public to view the clear benefits, savings and investment that has been delivered in order to reduce the carbon emissions of this council, which as a council represents a 71% reduction up to the end of March 2026. If councillors would like to discuss the challenges of climate change and subsequent environment policies, then I'd be happy to ask officers to set up a dedicated briefing in the autumn. I fully believe that we've got to send the right message out there to the people and to the businesses, and it's by leading with partnership that we are achieving such reductions. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor James Church.
Chair, a study by researchers from Imperial College London, the Met Office and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine has estimated that over 2,700 people in England and Wales may have died from heat-related causes during May and June record hot spells. The analysis found that 42% of deaths were attributed to the extra heat, with around 550 deaths estimated during the 9-day May heatwave and about 2,200 during the 11 days of the heatwave in June. While climate change may have been an overarching objective, our true mission has been to deliver what means most to Doncaster residents, whether that be reducing the cost of living, improving health and well-being, seeking inward investment in jobs, skills and infrastructure, increasing protection and resilience to extreme weather events, improving our open green spaces, developing new woodlands and improving air quality. As a council, we have a particularly focused and had real success on securing inward investment and external funding, which has been important to deliver best value for local taxpayers while also working to reduce people's energy bills for rooftop, solar and installation work. The motion on the order paper has zero impact on any council policy or plan. The amendment will enable a full and proper discussion to review the targets based on evidence and deliberately. Now, I welcome Councillor Rebeck's comments because I know Councillor Rebeck has got a young daughter, and we owe it to the next generation. We really have to take this really seriously. And if you look, when this was announced in September 2019, within months, Bentley faced catastrophic flooding. Within a few more years of that, property in Sprotber was ablaze due to the phenomenal weather we had for over a couple of days. So it is a real problem, and I don't think we can ignore it.
Councillor Rachel Reid.
Thank you.
Not on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much. But also, can I just say it's the same administration that is talking about climate emergencies that are trying to open an airport. Just saying. Anyway, the amendment simply delays a decision that this council already has enough evidence to make. 6 years after declaring a climate emergency, the council's own monitoring shows its voluntary ambitions are not on track. We do not need another review to tell us what we already know. Rescinding the declaration does not remove a single statutory environmental duty. It simply recognises that the emergency declaration has served its purpose. I therefore ask members to reject the amendment and support the substantive motion. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Russ Linley.
Hang on. There we go. There we go. I'm in the 21st century. Thank you very much. Right, thank you, Chair. Just to let everybody know that I've actually done over 30 years in the energy sector. That's working on turbines, steam, from coal-fired, oil-fired and gas-fired plants. I've done biomass boilers, I've done solar power installations, and I've seen quite a bit of energy, and a lot of it is really wasted. And when you start thinking about in the future, when we're going to start looking at AI and their cooling requirements, well, we're going to knock those back because they're going to be drawing down a hell of a lot more energy than we can probably supply at this point in time. So we are an energy-hungry society. What we've got going forward in Doncaster is going to make but a scratch on what we need to be doing in the future for global. And unless it's global and it's fully inclusive, and I'm talking about things like package. If you've got packaging, you need to be disposing of it. That's all energy hungry. So it's got to be fully inclusive. It's got to be sustainable. So the point is with this review, it's going to be a bit of a waste of time, really. We need to be getting on with more effective manoeuvres, and so on that score I'm going to not be supporting the review. Thank you.
Councillor Jan Emmanuel Craigsiam, please.
Thank you, Chair. While we sit here debating motions, the Chinese are opening a new coal-fired plant every single week. They're powering their economy and their people without apology. Yet in the UK, we're told there's a climate emergency that demands we put green ideology above everything else. There's no climate emergency here in Doncaster or Britain. we face real problems: high energy bills, fuel poverty, job security, and keeping the lights on reliably. We have challenges that need sorting, but we must stop giving automatic priority to expensive green solutions over proven traditional energy sources. We should do what actually works best for the people of Doncaster: affordable, reliable power that supports local jobs and keeps costs down. So let's be pragmatic, not ideological. Our residents deserve energy policy that puts them first, not virtue signaling that exports our problems abroad and so on. So I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor David Carroll.
I'd just like to remind everybody that between 70 and 80% of the solar panels in the world come from China. 70 to 80% of the batteries for these solar fields come from China. 70 to 80% of the raw materials to make all of this come from China. So what's simply happening is you're just moving your carbon footprint under the proposals that are currently there to a different country. We produce less than 0.78% of the world's carbon emissions. I will not be voting for this.
Put your mic on. An amendment to the motion has been proposed and seconded. Before we vote on the amendment, can I ask Councillor Ransom if she wishes to exercise her right of reply on the amendment?
No, thank you, Chair.
We shall now move to the vote on the amendment to the motion. Can I remind members to press your buttons until not to press your buttons until I've opened the vote, and please be aware that your vote will not count when the vote has been closed. Please either press the green button to vote yes, the red button to vote no, or the blue button to abstain. I am now opening the vote. Please vote on the amendment to the motion. I am now closing the vote. "13 for yes, 33 no, no abstentions. The amendment to the motion is declared lost by X amount of votes to Y votes and Z no abstentions. This now becomes the substantive motion for further consideration. No. As the amendment has been lost, we return to the substantive motion. Does any member wish to speak further on this motion? Is there? No. As there are no further requests to speak. Oh, hold on. Councillor Isaiah Riesbeck.
I would just like to add that I'm going to be voting down this motion and suggest everyone else does because of the previous reasons I've given.
As there are no further requests to speak, I will offer Councillor Ransom her right of reply before we vote on the substantive motion. Councillor Ransom.
Thank you, Chair. I thank you all for your comments. And also thank you for your very lengthy comments regarding the thing. We must, however, these are decisions that affect the people of Doncaster long term. We must be seen to act responsible with taxpayers' money and review expenditure. To confirm, this does not weaken our statutory duties for the environmental responsibility. It strengthens our accountability. I therefore ask members to support the motion. Thank you, Chair.
We shall now move to the vote on the substantive motion. Can I remind members to not press your buttons until I've opened the vote, and please be aware that your vote will not count when the vote has been closed. Please either press the green button to vote yes, the red button to vote no, or the blue button to abstain. I am now opening the vote. Please vote now on the motion. I am now closing the vote. 32 yes, 13 against and 1 abstention. The motion is carried by the most votes. Item 11, motion on notice. We now move to the final motion on this agenda. Can I ask Councillor Reid to propose this motion? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. This motion is not anti-development. Doncaster needs homes, new homes, businesses and infrastructure, but development should follow a plan-led system, not rely on losing productive countryside. The Doncaster local plan balances growth, regeneration, environmental protection and rural needs. National policy also prioritises protecting high-quality agricultural land. This motion reinforces those principles. It states that productive farmland should not be the default for large-scale development where alternatives exist, and that brownfield and previously developed sites should be prioritised. It does not oppose development or change planning law. Applications will still be judged on their merits. Instead, it highlights the importance of food security, sustainable land use and farming livelihoods within the current framework. Planning requires balance between growth, environment and future needs. Once high-quality farmland is lost, it is hard to restore. The motion also supports farmers through procurement and recognition of their role. In short, it backs development, the local plan and rural communities while ensuring agricultural land is properly considered. I commend this motion to Council. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Jane Cox is seconding this motion. Councillor Cox, would you like to speak?
I'm happy to second this motion. I come from a proud farming family who have farmed since the 1500s. Our current farm has been in the family for 4 generations. Without families like mine, our food security is under threat. Speaking to my family, we are on the cliff edge of a food shortage, with supermarkets squeezing already tight margins and the threat of inheritance tax never far from anyone's mind. As a country, we are at 65% self-sufficiency. This has dropped significantly in recent decades. We cannot rely on bringing food in from abroad. For context, 1 acre of land produces an average of 3.5 tonnes of wheat, which in turn produces around 11,000 loaves of bread. 1 acre of land with beef cattle produces around 220 kilograms of meat, around 2,000 meals. 1 acre of land can sustain between 1,000 free-range chickens and 20,000 barn-raised chickens, producing between 2,500 dozen eggs and 520,000 dozen eggs. This gives some idea of what we would lose each time planning is granted on agricultural land. This is not sustainable. Farmers maintain the drains, they maintain the hedgerows, they maintain the countryside, and farmers must be protected through policy and decision-making, and their land must not be handed over to be overdeveloped. The heritage of farming must be protected, and this council must resolve to support this motion.
Does any member wish to speak on this item? Councillor Glyn Jones.
Thank you, Chair. One of the strengths of Doncaster is that we are both a city and a rural borough. When many people think of Doncaster, they think of our city centre, our logistics sector, our rail heritage, or our growing economy. But rural Doncaster is equally important to that success. Farming supports a much wider rural economy. Agricultural businesses create jobs not only on farms but in engineering, machinery maintenance, transport, veterinary services, food processing, retail and tourism. When farming thrives, rural communities thrive. When farming struggles, the effects are felt across villages, local businesses and supply chains. That is why I welcome this motion's support for farming families, rural businesses and rural communities. This motion also recognises that farmers are frequently at the forefront of tackling wider challenges. They contribute to flood management, biodiversity improvement landscape stewardship and environmental resilience. They are not obstacles to environmental progress, they are partners in delivering it. In South Yorkshire, we are increasingly recognising the importance of connecting economic growth with environmental sustainability. Farmers have a vital role to play in that future. Supporting farming is therefore not about preserving the past, but is about investing in the future of our rural economy. A resilient Doncaster needs resilient rural communities. A resilient rural economy needs successful farmers. This motion acknowledges that really, and it deserves the support of every member. I thank you, Chair.
Mayor Ros Jones.
Chair. The City of Doncaster is the largest metropolitan borough in the country, covering 219 square miles, the vast majority of which is farmland. Doncaster farmers help to feed the nation, work long and unsociable hours, often experience loneliness and regularly carrying out a range of additional duties, including being a mechanic, a vet, a builder, metal fabricator and plumber. This on top of the regular duties of animal husbandry, milking the cows and arable farming. Although I am not a farmer, as many of you within this chamber will know, my political assistant is a livestock farmer outside of work. He won't mind me saying this, but I often call him on evenings and weekends when he regularly either in a tractor or on tending his sheep and cows. After over 8 years of working together, we have often discussed issues being faced by the farming and agricultural sector, whether this being the phasing out of the basic payment scheme following Brexit, challenges during COVID, fertiliser and energy costs skyrocketing due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and the most recent energy shock due to troubles in the Middle East. And yes, we discussed change to inheritance tax and agricultural property relief. But the underlying issue for over 25 years has been the lack of profitability in farming. Farm subsidies have been considerable changes in recent years. These are often confusing and require complex application process. I agree that as a country we should direct public money for public goods, but we must not forget the importance of food security. The COVID pandemic and war in Ukraine saw this country more prone to those price shocks due to our reliance on imported food. As a country, we import roughly 40% of the food that we eat, whereas back in 1990, that was only roughly 26%. Food waste is estimated at over 20%. Supermarkets use bully boy tactics to dictate price to produce from farmers, with penalties for fruit and vegetables considered slightly too big or not the perfect shape. We see farmers flushing milk down the drain whilst companies import cheap dairy products from abroad. I am a firm believer in backing British farmers, buying local and buying seasonal produce wherever possible. This would reduce food miles and ensure that we are eating food that upholds our high farming and environmental standards. Just yesterday, I announced that I had appointed Councillor Will Shaw as a farming and nature recovery champion for Doncaster, to be a positive and visible advocate for farming and nature recovery in Doncaster, promoting regenerative agriculture and sustainable land management practices, and advocate the integration of nature recovery into local and regional strategies. I warmly welcome Councillor Shaw to his role as farming and nature recovery champion in order to build partnerships between farmers, conservation groups and the public sector, whilst encouraging cross-sector collaboration to deliver landscape-scale nature recovery projects. I will be voting in favour of this motion and ask that all councillors do the same, regardless of political affiliation. Thank you.
Councillor Tim Needham.
Is it? Oh, good, excellent, thank you. Chair, I, like Councillor Cox, have family history going back many years for people who are in farming. I am pleased to support this motion because it starts from a simple but important truth. Food security begins with our farmers. Doncaster has a proud agricultural history, from the rich arable land to farming communities across the borough. Generations of farmers have helped feed our communities, support local employment, shape the character of our countryside and act as custodians of the land. Yet farming has been under considerable pressure over the decades. Rising input costs, uncertainty around support payments, pressure on supply chains and increasing competition for land all create real challenges for farms and rural businesses. If we want British food security, we must have British farmers, and if we want British farmers, we must ensure that as a society we back our farmers, buy British food and produce, and ensure we support them at every opportunity. This motion rightly recognises that agricultural land is not just empty space waiting to be developed, it is a strategic and national asset. Supporting farmers is not about resisting all change. Doncaster needs homes, jobs and infrastructure. But this motion supports the principle that growth should be planned, evidence-based and delivered in accordance with our local plan. I particularly welcome the commitment to support local and British food producers through procurement wherever practical and lawful. Every pound spent on local food strengthens rural businesses, shortens supply chains and keeps more economic value within Doncaster and South Yorkshire. Chair, our farmers provide more than food. They provide stewardship of the landscape, support biodiversity and help sustain rural communities. This motion sends a clear message that this council recognises their value and stands alongside them. I am proud to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Steve Plater.
Thank you, Chair. Doncaster, without doubt, has some of the most productive farmland in the whole of this country. And our farmers are some of the best. But if we fail to support these farmers, if we allow farmland to be destroyed, built on, where are we going to get our food from? Will it be like everything else? Will it be imported from China? If we don't look after the farmers, we aren't going to have any food.
Councillor Sue Farmer.
Thank you, Chair. This motion strikes a balance between supporting growth and protecting the assets that makes Doncaster unique. We all understand the need for housing, employment, land and modern infrastructure. Our borough is growing and that growth must continue. However, good planning is about making the right choices in the right places. The adopted local plan provides a framework for that approach. It allows development while ensuring environmental protection and support for rural communities. We are currently undertaking a new local plan and it must be shaped by our communities over the next few years. Across Doncaster, we have significant regeneration opportunities, brownfield land and previous developed site that should be considered first and foremost, wherever appropriate, before valuable food producing land is lost. This is not an anti-development, it is a pro-sustainability development. High quality agricultural land disappears under concrete. It is lost to future generations, yet the demand for food will only increase. Future generations may rightly ask why good farmland was sacrificed when alternative options were available. This motion therefore recognises the need for balance between housing and food production, balance between economic growth and environmental protection, balance between development needs and the long-term resilience of our rural communities. This is exactly the sort of responsible, plan-led approach that residents expect from this council, and I am pleased to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Majid Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I want to focus on one aspect of this motion that is particularly important to Doncaster's future: the relationship between food production, environmental recovery, and our biosphere ambitions. These issues are often presented as competing priorities. This motion recognises that they can and should work together. Doncaster is pursuing an ambitious vision to become home of the first UNESCO biosphere in the north. The Humber head levels and our nationally significant peatlands demonstrate how nature recovery, sustainable economic development and community benefit can be delivered side by side. UNESCO biospheres are specifically designed to balance environmental protection with economic activity and sustainable land management. What's particularly encouraging is that the biosphere vision sees local land managers and farmers as central key partners. The aim is not to impose new restrictions, but to create opportunities for investment, green jobs, sustainable enterprise, and environmental improvement. Farmers already manage much of the landscape that supports biodiversity, carbon storage, and food resilience. The Humberhead peatlands, for example, represent one of the country's most significant environmental assets and are recognised as important for climate resilience and nature recovery. The choice before us should not be framed as food production versus nature. The best outcomes come when both are delivered together through sustainable land use. That's why this motion is so important, Chair. It recognises food security, environmental improvement, biodiversity, economic growth, and rural prosperity as complementary goals rather than conflicting bonds. By supporting our farmers and supporting sustainable land management, we can deliver a greener, stronger, and more resilient Doncaster. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Reid, do you wish to exercise your right of reply?
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone, Mayor Jones and councillors, for supporting this motion.
We shall now move to the vote. Can I remind members to not press your buttons until I've opened the vote, and please be aware that your vote will not count when the vote has been closed. Can you have a recorded vote? Is that agreed? You can. Right, we shall now move to the vote. Please either press the green button to vote yes, the red button to vote no, or the blue button to abstain. I am now opening the vote. Please vote now. I am now closing the vote. That is 44 for and no other votes. It's unanimous. Item 12, questions by elected members. Questions on notice to the Executive. There is one question on notice at today's meeting from Councillor Cynthia Ransom to Mayor Ros Jones. I shall read the question out. The response I received from the elected mayor on 22nd of January makes clear that under no circumstances can members of the public or press have access to the balcony to observe public meetings. Why were members of the press and public permitted to sit in the balcony for the extraordinary council meeting on May the 11th, 2026? Those members of the public who were robbed of their democratic right to attend the Planning Committee on 16th of December 2025 deserve a public apology for being denied access to that meeting. I ask the elected mayor to give that public apology now. Mayor Jones, would you like to respond?
Chair. And thank you for your question, Councillor Ransom. I would recommend that you look back at the response that I provided to you back in January, as your question attempts to put words in my mouth that I never said. Thank you.
Councillor Ransom, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mayor Jones, for your reply. I disagree. If you check your reply, I am not putting words into your mouth. Your reply makes clear that under no circumstances can members of the public or press have access to the balcony to observe public meetings. So why were the public and press allowed to access the balcony for the council meeting on May 2025? Your reply to my question at the council meeting on the 16th of July is outrageous, and it shows disrespect to those members of the public who were turned away at the planning meeting in December 2025. This is another example of you saying you are doing one thing and doing another. Thank you, Chair.
Mayor Jones, would you like to respond?
Yes, please, Chair. Firstly, I do need to correct a couple of aspects of your question. Whilst my previous response stated the balcony was not an appropriate viewing gallery for members of the public, I did not state this applied to members of the press. I have also been assured by the officers involved in managing the council meeting of the 11th of May that whilst the balcony was used by members of the press, media and officers, it was not used by members of the public as a viewing gallery. Just to repeat part of my response from the January meeting. The balcony is accessed by double doors from the main office space, which is restricted to staff. Unlike the main chamber access area on floor 2, there is no secure area for members of the public to wait, leave the meeting or use toilets or baby changing facilities if required. They would need to be accompanied at all times, which would require additional staff to accompany the public accessing and entering this area, which would be costly and impractical. As you will recall from my answer to the question you submitted at the January Council meeting, arrangements for managing meetings are organised by governance services. At that meeting, I set out the reasons why it had been determined that the balcony is not an appropriate space for members of the public to view council and committee meetings. I've liaised again with governance services team in terms of providing a further response to your latest question. The extraordinary full council meeting on the 11th of May understandably attracted considerable public and press attention. In advance of the 11th of May council meeting, requests were received from the press and the media to attend and potentially film parts of the meeting. As there is a legal requirement to allow filming of public council meetings, and it was anticipated that there would be a high turnout for this meeting, spaces were allocated to the press and media on the balcony, and they were accompanied and managed by our colleagues from communications team. A number of officers with an interest in the matter under consideration were also sat in the balcony to observe the meeting. The alternative option would have been to limit the attendance of the public in order to make room for the press within the chamber. This was a common sense approach which I fully support. You will note that governance services now publish the maximum public capacity on the front of the council agenda, and members of the public are provided with contact details to reserve a place at the meeting if required. As your initial question arose from the 16th of December planning meeting, I understand officers in the planning team are also now taking steps to raise awareness of the arrangements members of the public need to make to attend meetings where there is significant public interest. Thank you for your question.
We now come to part 2 of item 11, questions without notice. Can I ask the members that they are concise and to the point when answering and asking questions? This will ensure a more productive session and a greater opportunity for all members to participate. Remember, there will be an opportunity to ask questions to the Mayor and each Cabinet member and committee chair. We will take each one in turn before moving on to the next, and I will remind you of the Cabinet members' portfolios. So please ensure you ask your questions to the correct member. Please use the button on your console to indicate if you wish to ask a question. Councillor Frank Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. This is for Councillor Glyn Jones. Recently, a parking bay...
Sorry about this. We're going to do Mayor Ros Jones first. Questions for the Mayor? Joan Briggs, please.
In March, the Mayor emailed ward councillors promising to keep us updated on the new Eglinton Leisure Centre. The email confirmed the demolition contract had gone out to tender, with submissions due by the 27th of March. Residents have now been told that the demolition will not begin until August. Will the Mayor explain the reason for this 4-month delay, why ward councillors have not been kept updated as promised, and confirm whether any further delays are anticipated? Will she also publish a clear timetable for demolition, construction and expected opening date so residents have confidence the project will not suffer the delays experienced at Thorn Leisure Centre? Thank you.
Councillor Jane Cox. Sorry, Mayor Jones, would you answer?
We have actually gone out and got a contractor to actually undertake the demolition. It has been found that there's been a lot of reclamation required because of the asbestos there. Therefore, I cannot tell you when that demolition will be finished and when we can go out to contract. But I assure you, as soon as we get dates and times, you will be aware. But that is the reason why.
Councillor Jane Cox.
Mayor. Oh, yes, sorry. No.
Joan Briggs gets a supplementary question. Sorry about this.
That's fine, thank you.
Mayor Ros Jones, would you like to answer? I'm being instructed here.
A supplementary question, Chair.
Councillor Jane Cox.
Mayor, one of the lessons emerging from the recent NHS inquiries is that public confidence is often damaged less by the original mistake than by an institution's failure to answer straightforward questions. In the DBIC matter, an internal council email acknowledges that mistakes have been made, yet the council continues to refuse to explain why the City of Doncaster Council lodged an OS1 priority search over the property on the 19th of August 2024, or who authorised it. Mayor, given that the OS1 was an application made by the City of Doncaster Council itself, will you now tell this council who authorised that application and when you first became aware of it?
Street Development Limited is a private company owned by council. It's a board of directors, and I would suggest that they are directing your questions. However, anything further and dates and times, as it's not been asked in advance, I will certainly get a written response on that to you.
Would you like to answer a supplementary question, Jane Cox?
That doesn't answer my question. I am asking about the contractual dispute between Arthur Street and the purchaser. I'm asking about an application made by the City of Doncaster Council itself. Can you explain why you consider a question about a council decision in council cannot be answered? I therefore ask again, who authorised the OS1 application and when did you first become aware of it?
Again, I repeat, I've not got that information at hand. I will respond in writing to you.
Councillor David Carroll.
Yeah, following the latest briefing on DSA, with the identification that the nearest substations, transformers, it's now recognised that 1 millivolt amp, 1 MVA electrical supply, it won't be sufficient for future profitable operation, and that an additional grid supply will be needed. So as CDC as tenant, we would be responsible for the cost of the connection. Is this cost budgeted into future operating costs? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have not got the detailed costs budgeted for in the projections forward. But again, if you'd have put this in writing, I would have certainly had those figures at hand.
Would you like a supplementary question on that, David? Carol?
The idea of these questions is that you're able to answer them, and not that what happens is we'll get back to you, because as I said previously in council meetings, you say every time, as does the majority of our cabinet, we will get back to you. It never happens.
We will get back to you. When I say I will get back to you, I will get back to you. And you cannot expect any cabinet members to have every detail of anything that's going through. They will have the top surface line of what's there. But of course we will get back to you, because we really do believe in open and transparent.
Councillor Simeon Wallens.
Thanks, Chair. My question is also for Mayor Jones. Might I ask it on behalf of my fellow Conservative group colleague, Nick Allen?
Yes.
Yep. My fellow councillor Nick Allen, he recently made attempts to secure an ex gratia payment for a ward resident. I'd like to know how many ex gratia payments were paid by Doncaster Council in the last 2 financial years, and who can authorise them? Is there a specific written policy regarding these payments, and are councillors ever involved in this process?
Would you like to answer that, Ros Jones?
Ex gratia payments, we have certain policies that cover whether the payments could be made or not. And without knowing the specific case, I'm afraid we can't give you an answer here.
Do you want to do a supplementary? No. Chris Kidger, Councillor Chris Kidger.
Yes, thank you. Mayor Jones, I want you to cast your mind back to the answer you gave to Mr. Brooke on his question regarding car parks. I find it quite confusing. Part of your answer was the enforcement function is not intended to carry out wide-ranging speculative investigations in the absence of evidence. Quite right. Mr. Brooke gave officers all the evidence they needed. Rather, the service operates on proportionate and evidence-led respecting to specific allegations of planning control breaches. So, they had the evidence, why don't they act on it? I find these 2 statements confusing. I've had meetings with Mr. Brooke and I've seen all the evidence he's given. That has gone into officers. It's bounced from planning to enforcement to environmental services, and the last email I had was from governance. That email had been opened 134 times. 134 times. The officer concerned has stated that it's a civil matter between anyone that's been fined and the landowner. And she said this must be frustrating. Well, to be given a parking charge, being contacted by debt collection agencies and eventually taken to court, yeah, I would imagine it's frustrating. Mayor Jones, it's in your power to get hold of planning, enforcement and any other departments under the executive's control and sort this out for the good of the people of Doncaster. It's unfair of them getting parking charges from companies with inadequate planning permission on APR cameras and posts, and with advertising signs that do not meet their policy requirements.
You've had your 2 minutes.
I've done.
Councillor. Would you like to answer that, Ros Jones?
I believe I've given you the answer, but I also asked Mr. Brooks to send me the information, and I will ensure it's followed up by my appropriate portfolio holder. Thank you.
Would you like a supplementary question?
To say, I'm sure there's a lot of information to go through.
Rachel Reid, Councillor Rachel Reid.
Thank you. Mayor Jones, in January you told this council that responsibility for the Doncaster Business Innovation Centre DBIC transaction lay with the Board of Arthur Street, Doncaster Developments Limited. The Doncaster Free Press reported on the 19th of May 2026 that an internal council email dated 19th of August 2024 admitted that mistakes had been made. Has the council commissioned any independent review into whether the directors discharged their statutory and fiduciary duties? If not, why not? Thank you.
Mayor Ros Jones.
Thank you, Chair. The Council are under negotiations with the gentleman concerned, and therefore it would be inappropriate for me to make any further statements. Thank you.
Would you like a supplementary question?
Thank you. Okay then, so thank you. Mayor, do you accept that where public money is involved and mistakes have been admitted, an independent review is necessary to restore public confidence?
Mayor Ros Jones.
We will always undertake reviews as appropriate. We need to see the negotiations go through before any further public money is spent on public reviews. Thank you.
Councillor Frank Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to the DSA, and this is to Mayor Jones. I believe that a number of storage containers are to be replaced at the airport. Apparently, having looked at that, these containers are to be manufactured in Ireland. Surely we have companies in this country, if not locally, that could actually produce those containers. Thank you, Mayor John.
Mayor Ros Jones.
Is Ireland not part of the UK? Certainly part of it is. However, we will always weigh up where we spend money and ensure that we spend money wisely and deliver value for money as far as the public purse is concerned. Thank you.
Would you like a supplementary question, Councillor?
The transportation from Ireland to this country is going to outweigh any supply from local manufacturers.
Mayor Ros Jones.
Proper procurement processes will be followed, and that includes social inclusion, it includes costs and value for money, and they will follow the proper procedures for procurement. Thank you.
Councillor Neil Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on the Donny Pound, it's interesting to see that latest contract to demolish the Waterdale looks like it's been awarded to a Manchester company. I know Manchester's part of England and part of UK, etc., but it's not a Donny Pound, is it? And I think we're picking up on this fact that there's a lot of business opportunities in Doncaster. There's lots of entrepreneurs in Doncaster, and I think it's a bad decision going to Manchester. And is it something that we should or could look at renegotiating and looking back into Doncaster to move the Waterdale forward?
Mayor Ros Jones.
Waterdale is part of an agreement, and it's looking for building homes for people along with commercial development. Again, we'll have gone through the correct process in procurement, and therefore we will continue on with that because Doncaster needs more homes being built. It needs to stimulate the town centre living, and therefore we've followed correct process.
Are there any questions to the Deputy Mayor and Cabinet Member for the Environment and Housing, Councillor Glyn Jones? Sorry. Supplementary, Neil Wood.
Thank you, Chair. You're doing well. So further to that, what I'm getting at is that there's lots of opportunities for youths in Doncaster to be getting involved with this Waterdale site. So at the very least, can we not look at this third party to look to them to employ the youth of Doncaster, if nothing else? It's probably going to be cheapest labour they have, but it's also going to bring more skills to Doncaster, so that when we decide to knock colonnades down, we've got our own teams to do it, rather than having to go to Manchester again.
Mayor Ros Jones.
The proposals and what they're going to produce, the contract's been awarded that way. As far as they're concerned, this company always seeks to use local labour wherever possible.
Now, are there any questions to the Deputy Mayor and Cabinet Member for the Environment and Housing, Councillor Glyn Jones? I think I start with Jan Emmanuel Crazy. I'm afraid I've moved on, Jan. Which one is it?
Howard Rimmer.
Councillor Howard Rimmer, please.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Councillor Glyn Jones. In November 25, a member of the public, Mr. Chris Novak, asked you the question to carry out enforcement on the illegal parking on Copley Road, Netherall Road and East Lathgate. In January 26, I asked a similar question to clear up the illegal parking on Copley Road, Netherall Road and East Lathgate. The first part of your reply was, have I informed the town ward councillors? Well, I hadn't, but they were sat behind you, so knew from them. My question is, what is the reason that Copley Road, Netherall Road and East Lathgate can't be cleared of illegal parking? Where is the enforcement? Why, 6 months later, has nothing been done? When will it be attended to?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor. I would like to say that enforcement falls under my remit, but it doesn't anymore. So I can't offer you a direct answer to that question, but I'm sure if you put it in writing, Councillor, the correct Cabinet member will be able to respond.
Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Rimmer?
Town ward councillors present then. Thank you.
That is a good move, Councillor, because, Councillor, at the end of the bench here is that particular Cabinet member, who is also a town ward member. Thank you.
Councillor Stephen Plater.
Thank you, Chair. Again for Councillor Glyn Jones. Again about parking, however, and disruption around building sites. Residents who live near major and not so major housing developments regularly experience construction vehicles parking on the pavements, obstructing the driveways, blocking roads, creating safety and accessibility issues. Will the Cabinet member outline what monitoring and enforcement arrangements are in place to ensure that developers and their contractors manage construction traffic responsibly, and will he consider introducing stronger measures where problems persist?
Councillor Glyn Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I presume this is a local issue in your ward, Councillor? Okay, well, what I would suggest, Councillor, is report it through councillors online to get direct action on a local response. If it's a wider response, I would suggest doing the same, or email me if there's any particular obstructions, irresponsible parking, inconsiderate parking, etc. Because we have to operate within the law, and as far as I'm aware, we can't initiate temporary suspensions, but we may be able to. It's knowing those individual circumstances that would help tremendously. Thank you, Councillor.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Just to come back, there are a number of issues, mainly on places where there are smaller developments in existing developments, but I'll write to you on them and see if we can do something about it. Thank you.
Very helpful.
Councillor Rob Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jones, you'll have seen that
Doncaster has 8 green flag parks, as announced last week. And how great is it that certainly 2 of those parks are in Town Ward. We've got Townfield and Elmfield Park, and I know in Councillor Jones's patch there's Hexthorpe Flats Park as well. Isn't it great that we've got these 8 amazing parks in our borough? Does he agree that our council should continue to look after them and maintain them to a green flag standard?
Councillor Glyn Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's absolutely marvellous that yet again our marvellous parks are there for an award, for the Green Flag Award. I was present in Hexthorpe Park when the judge came round oh my word, it's probably back in March or April time now. And I was there and explained everything that we're doing, the marvellous volunteers that are in the Friends of Hexthorpe Park that do regular works in there, were there to show what they were doing. But also our street scene, our parks team were there as well. So it's a combined effort, and it is marvellous to see. And I hope that we can get more than 8 next year if we move those things forward. So thank you, Councillor.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you. My supplementary is, isn't it also great that we're able to display these green flags in our parks despite a motion introduced last year from opposition councillors trying to get rid of these green flags in our parks? It's great to be able to show this symbol of our amazing green spaces.
Councillor Glyn Jones.
Welcome the green flag being flown in our parks, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Jan Cransium.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jones, residents in Balby South have experienced a worrying rise in serious violence, including stabbings and shootings. As the Cabinet member with responsibility for safer communities, are you aware of this increase in our ward? And what specific steps are you and the Cabinet taking to address it and put pressure on the relevant authorities to tackle this problem? Thank you.
I would like to advise the member for Balby South that I no longer have the safer communities element within my portfolio. As I offered my colleague across the way advice is to send that question along to Councillor Cobby. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question? Councillor Frank Jackson.
I apologise if I'm asking the question of the wrong councillor. My inquiry refers to the recent parking bay that has been created on the A19, approximately a quarter of a mile just outside Ascot. I recently inquired as to highways as to why it had been constructed. The information I received was traffic enforcement. Members will probably be aware that already there are traffic enforcements on the A19 on the construction of the Dario junction. I was also inquired as to the actual cost of providing this particular parking area. I was told we're waiting for the bill from the contractor. So does that mean that it was awarded without a contract, and therefore the contractor basically has an open checkbook and can charge what he likes? The Mayor recently referred to procurement processes. Has that actually been implied here? Thank you.
Councillor Glyn Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A number of things in there. It's obviously a local ward issue for yourself, Councillor, being an asking member, and I would formally put that in writing via Council Online so you have got a definitive answer to that. As to the other points that you've made, I'm sure it went through procurement in the correct way. However, I would have to look at that specifically, but I'm sure it did. because we always stick rigidly to procurement rules and procedures. So what I would ask, Councillor, is if that you would send me that question. Send me that question in write by an email, and I'll chase that up for you. But I would recommend doing that in the first place through councillors online and getting a written response back. That way it is definitive rather than he said, she said.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Jackson?
The inquiry did actually go through councillors online, and the inquiry was responded to by a representative of Highway, and in order to bring this forward, Councillor, I will send you the reply that I actually got.
So thank you.
Councillor Neil Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask why Councillor Jones has just answered that? Because it's enforcement and that's Jay McColby's department. But other than that, from an environmental point, one thing that I would like to pick up on is, at this moment in time, there's traffic lights and roadworks all over Doncaster, and it must be having an effect on this environment. What can the councillor do, or the deputy mayor do, to try and manage this this system better? I'm looking at a map of Doncaster at the moment, and all you see is diversions and closed roads. And these closed roads, some of them are in rural communities where they can't physically get to the destination, but when they do get there, they're taking longer routes round. I did mention to you earlier on in the year about flooding and only having one route in Doncaster. Now that must affect the climate, because everybody's driving all over Doncaster, here, there and everywhere to get to the same destination. But because there's only one road to one side of Doncaster from other, which is basically going over the St George's Bridge, it makes it so that, one, we end up with more congestion, and congestion obviously adds to the green agenda.
Councillor Glyn Jones.
Thank you for your question, Councillor. It's very interesting that we, whenever we try to bring about improvements, there's always an issue over congestion, lower speed limits, dangerous chip signs, etc., etc. I can't answer that question specifically tonight, but if you send your question in an email, I will endeavour to get you an answer from the Highways team and move that forward. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question? Yeah.
Yeah, so my question was about the environment. What are you going to do to try and make sure that we reduce the congestion in Doncaster? I understand what you're saying about the highways supporting you, but what are you going to do to put something in place so that Doncaster has less congestion through, in my opinion, mismanaged maintenance routines? You can go from Asken to Doncaster and go through 4 or 5 sets of temporary traffic lights, and it can be really, really annoying. And I know it is for improvements. I understand that we've got to make improvements, but why does it always seem to be affecting the majority of people rather than trying to make it so that it's more managed and more controlled? The one that Councillor Jackson warned about on the end of Asken Road, that one there was overrun by 2 or 3 weeks because we put the contract out to somebody, and when they got the contract, they mismanaged it, and then they had the cheek to charge us for their mismanagement. So that's things that we're talking about in terms of the environmental aspect.
Councillor Jones.
Put into an email to me, Councillor. As I said when I started my statement around this, it's absolutely marvellous that we've invested so much money in improving our highways. And, you know, there's bound to be some knock-on effects from that during that particular early stage of any sort of reconstruction of the highways. But we do need to have that reconstruction and ensure that our roads are better and safer going forward. So if you send that to me in an email, Councillor, it will be attended to appropriately. Thank you.
Councillor Gerald Squire.
Yeah, thank you. Again, Glenn, going back to the roadworks, I followed a dive. I was coming into council yesterday. I followed a diversion, and the diversion took me round in circles. So whoever's creating or was putting these diversion signs out, it took me back on where I originally started from. I had to find my own way in, and a lot of drivers were following the same diversion signs. Something needs to be better organised when these roadworks are being put in place, because for one, I believe a roadwork was put in place without notification. That was leading onto the A19. So everybody were leading onto the A19 unaware it were closed off. The diversions, as I said, took you back to where I originally started. So these roadworks, what they're putting in, I don't think that they're organised very well, because they seem to be everywhere. We seem to have them everywhere. And I believe they're putting them in, and we're not even getting notified about them. And going back to Councillor Wood there, the problem we had the A19 when they did the traffic light system, it didn't overrun by 2 weeks, it overrun by 6 weeks. And I inquired about why it overrun. And I talked to the contractor and also Highways. The contractor had negotiated with the power company. The power company had not actually got the dates for when the work was supposed to be started. The cables, what was supposed to run through the farmer's field, the farmer didn't even know he was having to the substation for the powering up. The farmer didn't even know they was going to carry out the works. When they finally contacted the contractor and said, yeah, you can come onto land to run these cables, they run the cables through onto the A19, where the contractor dug up the channels for the cables, and then had to go back because they realised, oh, we've dug it on the wrong side of the road. That overrun from poor organisation, it overrun by 6 weeks, which I said to the contractor, so Doncaster Council will not have to foot this bill. And he turned around.
Councillor Squire, I'm sorry, but you've overrun.
Okay, then.
Right. I know that there was specific the work on the A19. I think it's somewhere in the region overall around £10 million. Clearly, there are issues that arise, and I can't tonight give you a definitive response around all those elements that you raised. And I do appreciate how frustrating it is, but please, as I've advised other members on similar issues, put it to me in writing, your specifics there, and we will endeavour to get an answer for you around all those elements.
Can I remind members, please, to be concise and to the point when you're asking and answering questions, because then we can move forward quickly. We're going to move on now. Councillor James Church, Cabinet Member for Neighbourhoods, Public Health and Traded Services. Anybody got questions for that? Councillor Rob Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor James Church, you, alongside the both of us, other councillors from Labour and also Reform councillors took part in a charity football match a couple of weeks ago to raise money for Mental Health FC CIC, a really important local organisation who put on football sessions to help people improve their mental health in Doncaster and wider South Yorkshire as well. The fund we had and cross-party relationships we built were a secondary to the money that was raised for that organisation. I'm proud to say that we raised £1,300 for Mental Health FC. And I think several members ached for a few days afterwards, and I know Councillor Squires has now got a long-term injury because of it as well. So thank you to everyone who took part. And there is a question on this, which is, Councillor Church, do you think councillors should be should do further charitable work to improve public health in Doncaster.
Councillor Church.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. Now, as you know, I'm quite a big football fan, so after last night's hugely disappointing result, it is nice to see that football does have the ability to bring people together and putting to one side party political differences are good to see. So yeah, we can and should do more actually collectively to raise money for local charities. And the game itself was it was 7-7, and it was played in good spirit. I have to say, you might have got a helping hand from the referee in terms of scoring for you when it came on as a sub. But I contributed an own goal, and I think Councillor Guest, did you have a bet on a draw? Because you made a
you won't get 5.
Right, yeah. And so there was no assistant referee or anything like that, I'm afraid. But anyway, I think we should explore it, perhaps to the Civic Bears charitable fund as well. So whether it be cricket or whatever, but we can certainly look at doing it again. I think we'll all be recovered by next year as well. But will you be recovered by then?
I hope so. I would like
you were in distress. That's for sure. Yeah, and I think I'll have to get into some training as well. Yeah, so yeah, let's do more.
Councillor David Carroll.
Yeah, Councillor Church. The council recently introduced a new £150 registration fee for memorial stonemasons wishing to continue working within council-operated cemeteries. So the question's on behalf of the local stonemasons within Doncaster, and they've raised serious concerns, excuse me, that this charge was introduced this charge was introduced without any meaningful or any consultation, despite these businesses already maintaining appropriate insurance and, you know, meeting all recognised industry standards and safety standards, etc., and paying, being members of the Stonemasons Association and having separate permits and fees for the memorials that they install. So for a small local business, it doesn't seem like it's an optional charge. Refusing to pay means that they can no longer work within the council's cemeteries. So can you explain, please, precisely what this additional cost is for? This £150 fee, what it pays for, and why there was no consultation that took place at all before it was introduced?
Councillor Church.
Particular issue, I'm not 100% sure. So what I'll do is I will ask the officer and get a response in that particular problem. But we have been, what we had to do last year, we had to look at bereavement services because obviously we've got competition from Barbie Dunn, and also the fact that people have changed the way that they say goodbye to their loved ones. So we had to do something different. So fees and charges were changed. Some were reduced and some were increased, and it was to make us more competitive and make us more commercial as well. We couldn't just carry on increasing fees by inflation. It didn't work. So I will look into that and I'll get you a response. Thank you.
Have you got a supplementary question, David Carroll?
This isn't an increase in fees. This is a brand new fee. It's something that's never been there before. So in the meantime, until we've sorted out why there's not been any consultation, can we put a hold on this fee?
James Church.
Well, let me do some digging. I think it was explained, but I haven't got the full details now. Let me have a look at it, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Is that okay? That's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Majid Khan.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Church, are you in agreement that our bereavement services do a fantastic job in delivering for all of Doncaster's residents, and they're under a lot of financial pressure, stress, and partly caused by the rejection of the balanced Labour budget, which would have ensured that bereavement services could deliver for the residents in a borough, and potentially any increases in charges, fees or permitting is a direct result of the rejection of the Labour budget by the opposition.
Do you have a supplementary question? I've asked that.
Well, the bereavement services, I mean, of course, it's not just about delivering funerals. We also have to look after a huge estate as well. So there is enormous pressures on those services, and unfortunately, I do think that the increase in income targets set for this budget or for this financial year will be very difficult to achieve. But I have to give credit to them because they work very hard, and a lot of the changes have been driven by their expertise as well. So, for instance, they've engaged with the funeral directors, and it did need to change, and hopefully we will see an improvement in the situation going forward. But I don't think it's realistic to expect the savings that were forecast within the budget.
Is there no? Councillor Neil Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Just going on traded services, if I'm guessing that third parties that we use for traffic controls, something that you look after as well, is it? Because if it is, that's somewhere that we can make a massive saving. I did mention to our ex-councillor Stainforth that the road was shut for 34 weeks. Road traffic must have cost maybe £5,000, £6,000 a week to look after. And when you look all over Doncaster at the moment, that is happening all over Doncaster. I know that in the team that looks after the vergers, grass vergers, if they want to shut an area down for one day, it costs between £1,000 and £1,500 for traffic lights. So I do think that in Doncaster at this moment in time, like I explained to Deputy Mayor, with so much traffic work going on, it's really important that we manage it better, because sometimes we're seeing traffic lights and roadworks and there doesn't appear to be anybody working there, but it does have a cost for the council, and that's probably going to give us a massive saving if we really dug down into it.
Councillor Church.
Services. Sorry.
That's it for that one then. So we're going to move on now to Councillor Gemma Cobby, Regulation and Enforcement, Planning and Safer Communities. Councillor Howard Rimmer.
Councillor Cobby, I believe that you've been in station for about a month. So Councillor Jones has absolved any responsibility since January. The parking on Copley Road, Netherall Road and East Lathgate, what is the reason that they can't be cleared of illegal parking? Where is the enforcement? Why 6 months later has nothing been done? When will it be attended to? And you were aware of it 6 months ago.
Councillor Cobby.
I'm always regularly reporting parking issues because, again, it's part of town ward and it's an area that I regularly go through. I know enforcement do go down there. They do ticket. Sometimes the problem is that we ticket the same people and they can afford to pay the fines. Also, if it's a night time and if the obstruction, we also need the police part of that enforcement as well. So again, that is not always easy to do. But if you want any particular figures and anything else that's come through from enforcement, put an email. I'll get those figures to you and talk about what else we're doing. It is something that I am quite focused on. And again, it's something that I can chat with officers regularly about. So I hope that's a little bit of comfort.
Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Rimmer?
Thank you for the answer. If they don't pay the fines, take the car away. If the parking problem is night time, put the enforcement on shifts. Whatever your income is from parking fines will cover overtime. Right, so will town ward councillors do the job and sort the parking out? I've already done one town ward councillor's job yesterday at the railway station.
I think we'll end that there. Okay, we're moving on from that. So now then, it's going to be Councillor Sue Farmer, Cabinet Member for Children.
No, you've got Yarn. I've given you those already. Yarn asked the question.
Sorry. Yarn Cranium, please. Councillor Yarn Cranium.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Cobby, residents in Bobby South have experienced a worrying rise in serious violence, including stabbings and shootings. As the Cabinet member with responsibility for safer communities, recently, fair enough, are you aware this increase has happened in our ward, and what specific steps are you and the Cabinet taking to address it and put pressure on the relevant authorities to tackle this issue? And I'll repeat, stabbings and shootings, I mean fatal. Thank you.
Councillor Cobby.
I've got the statistics for that specific ward, but again, I can get that information if you want to talk it through. If you've got any concerns, happy to discuss them with yourself as well. So again, pop it in an email and we'll arrange the discussion.
Councillor Cranium, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Can I receive your response in regards to it? After you get the information necessary regarding Balby South, and put that in an email for me so I can pass that on to my constituents, please.
Councillor Cobby.
We can get what we can get. Obviously, some things are police and we don't get all the information from the police, but whatever we've got, I can happy respond. But again, I would say put it in an email what you specifically want and we see what we can do. Again, it's what we can get from the police as well.
Councillor David Carroll.
Just on the subject of parking still, I've seen myself on East Lathgate where certain business owners are parking for free and it's being ignored. I'd like you to maybe take a look into why that's happening. I actually spoke with one business owner about it, and I'm not even going to repeat what he said, but it would appear that certain business owners are being parking for free and it's being ignored.
An email and we can investigate.
Councillor Majid Khan.
Councillor Cobby, are you in agreement that if councillors have got specific questions about their wards which require detailed responses, it would be useful for you and other cabinet members that they provide those questions in advance so you can come to this meeting with the responses and provide those, and the public can also listen to what those responses are?
Absolutely. I mean, it gives me opportunity to give you a bit more information, particularly if you want data, statistic information, what we're doing, we can give that information if it's a written request. Otherwise, it's difficult for us to get that information prior to this meeting.
Councillor Neil Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Am I right in understanding that because no councillor asked you a question up front, you've had no interest in any stabbings or shootings in Balby?
Community safety does come to my portfolio, so I am interested, but again, as your colleague illustrated, I've only just come into this post for a month, so I've only had a couple of meetings so far. So again, I haven't got specific details for each area. Don't get that, obviously, sometimes always get that information from police, particularly if it's an ongoing investigation. So again, I'm happy to share that information, but again, I need those questions in advance.
Do you have a supplementary question?
So can you tell me how many stabbings and shootings have took place in Doncaster since you've took your post?
I haven't got the information in front of me. Again, But again, because I didn't know that was coming up. And also, again, I don't know what's investigated by police, because again, police don't tell us about ongoing investigations.
Councillor Rob Dennis.
You'll be pleased to know my question is not about stabbings or shootings, which councillors obviously have no intel on. I refer back to my my introductory note for the amendment on one of the previous items. Councillor Cobby, as planning comes under your portfolio, I'd like to ask whether you can broach with officers about trying to include or trying to lobby national government through the National Policy Planning Framework as to what cooling measures can be taken or built into future new build homes, as well as work with planning officers in the upcoming review of the local plan to build in cooling measures into properties going forward so that we can adapt to a changing climate.
Councillor Cobby.
I live in the new builds, so I know how hot it can be, and new properties, and obviously those new properties haven't adapted to the recent climates as well that we're seeing. So happy to have a look at it and discuss with officers about going forward with the MPPF framework, and anything else we can do, such as the local plan.
Do you have a supplementary question? No. To now Councillor Sue Farmer, Cabinet Member for Children, Young People and Families. Councillor Tim Needham.
Thank you, Chair. As somebody who's interested in supporting children and families across the city, I would like to ask Councillor Farmer if she's able to provide an update and a brief update. Have we finished? Thank you. Would you like to be able to provide an update? Oh, it's gone off again. Holiday activity funds, half. And the additional council funding allocated to provide a universal offer or offering for children and young people over the summer break. Thank you.
Councillor Farmer.
Thank you for your question, Tim. Yeah, and I'm delighted to announce that for the fourth consecutive year, Mayor Rose Jones has allocated funding for the Doncaster Summer Staycation, which is going to be a jam-packed full of activities for this summer for all families and for all children, up until, for everybody. And some of the events that are taking place are for people who probably won't otherwise be able to attend. And most of them are free, but some, there's going to be a small charge. But alongside the summer staycation, we've got the HAVs, as you just said, the Holiday Activity Food Programme, which is funded by the Department of Education, will be running again this year. And it is designed to provide free health food and enriching activities, primarily for secondary school children who receive benefit-related school meals, which is fantastic. And there's a range of activities, including sports camps, dance camps, music sessions and more, and lots more free activities. And I ask all members to please promote this and advise your residents to have a look on our doncaster.gov website, and they'll get all the information where all activities are taking place. And above that, the government is also supporting families by making summer more affordable for families across the country, including VAT cuts on children's play days out, reducing VAT from 20% to 5%, cutting VAT to reduce the cost of children's restaurant meals, children's tickets for theatres and cinema, and all tickets for attractions like soft play, amusement parks and museums. That means lower prices at the till automatically. Another thing our government's introduced is free bus travel for children on local buses throughout August. Children aged 5 to 15 travelling on local buses in England can travel free throughout August, whether they're going on a day out, visiting family, or just popping around town or where they live. And the bus is on us. This applies to all local bus services in England. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for your question.
Thank you. As the hour is nearly up, we can have an extra 10 minutes, but I have one more question for you, Sue Farmer, and I think if we could just make it quick, please. No, I'm going to have to bypass it because we're up nearly with the hour. We're going to have an extra 10. Sorry. So, next one was John Reid, Councillor John Reid.
On the timing, because the same people seem to set their attendance times and go when they want.
So, I shall therefore move forward now to Councillor David Nevitt, Cabinet Member for Adults, Wellbeing and Culture. No. Nobody wants it, so that's it then with that. Are there any questions to the chairs of committees? Jason Tarity is not here, so then we've got Chair of Elections and Democratic Structures Committee, Councillor Rachel Reid. No one is asked. Oh, wait. Councillor Majid Khan.
Yeah, a question. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Reid, what assurances can you give, or what work are you undertaking alongside our elections team to ensure that people can participate in elections freely, fairly, and ensure that everyone has access to polling stations?
Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Whatever they're doing now, is there something else that we need to be doing that they're not already sort of set out now?
There are no supplementaries, so therefore we're going to move on to the Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, Councillor James Church. Nobody wants to ask you a question, Councillor. So the Chair of OSMC, Councillor Carl Hughes. Nobody wants to ask you a question either. I think we're all losing the will to live, to be honest. Cabinet members' announcements.
So that's Glyn first. Go down in order.
So Glyn Jones.
I have no announcements, Chair, thank you.
Right. Councillor Gemma Cobby.
Yes, Chair. This is on regarding to taxi licensing. Councillors, as I am sure many of you are aware of ongoing concerns regarding taxi and private hire vehicle licensing, particularly in relation to out-of-area working and the need for consistent national standards. The UK Deregulation Act 2015 introduced legislation to encourage market efficiency, which allowed private hire vehicle drivers to obtain licences from any local authority in England, regardless of where they actually intended to operate. The out-of-area loophole enabled councils to have varying licensing standards, processing times, and costs. Many drivers began applying for licences in areas with looser requirements or cheaper fees and then driving elsewhere. Local authorities play a critical role in ensuring the taxi and PHV services are safe, reliable and meets the standards of communities they serve. At City of Doncaster Council, we are committed to maintaining high licence standards with robust controls in place, including enhanced driver vetting, regular compliance checks and strong safeguarding expectations. These measures are designed to protect the travelling public, especially vulnerable passengers and children. The UK Government has committed to introducing legislation to address inconsistencies in taxi and private hire vehicle licence standards following renewed concerns about passenger safety and child protection. The Department for Transport is pushing back against out-of-area licensing to clamp down on regulatory loopholes. Proposals in the King's Speech outline plans for a taxi and private hire vehicle bill to implement national minimum standards and ensure a closer match between where licences are issued and where journeys take place. We are lobbying MPs on this issue, and I have a letter ready to go to the new government minister next week on this.
Councillor David Nevitt.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. It's about the St Leger 250th year celebrations. The City of Doncaster and Doncaster Racecourse is on final preparations in advance of the 250th anniversary of the St Leger Stakes. It is on the final furlong, if you pardon the pun. Running from Thursday the 10th to Sunday the 13th of September, I have bought my tickets and I hope to see some of you there too. The 2026 St Leger is more than just the flagship day of the St Leger Festival. It's a once-in-a-generation celebration of the world's oldest classic and one of the crown jewels of the flat racing season. It is set to be a thrilling festival of top-class turf, racing and amazing entertainment. There will also be a special exhibition at Dagenham Gallery, Library and Museum, D-Glam next door, from the 1st of August, and this will be free. The Great St Leger 250th Years of Racing Classic looks at the fascinating history of a race that remains an integral part of Doncaster's identity to this day. From the glamour of the 18th century, Doncaster, through famous visitors to the races and the impact of the coming of the railways, the St Leger has remained a constant feature of Doncaster's sporting and cultural life and holds a special place in the hearts of many. Hope to see you there. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sue Farmer.
Thank you, Chair. I was hoping, well, I'm a bit disappointed that the agenda was moved around because my announcement deserves the full attention of all members of this council. And right, but I will proceed. Councillors, this council is deeply saddened by the recent number of water-related fatalities across the UK. The record-breaking heatwave at the end of May 2026 saw a harrowing number of lives lost, including children and young people within just a few days. The community in Mexborough were devastated at the end of May when 11-year-old schoolboy Mackenzie Swift was tragically drowned after getting into difficulties in the River Don near Ferryboat Lane. Emergency services, including South Yorkshire Police, fire crew, mountain rescue and members of the public conducted a frantic multi-day search. We are liaising with Mackenzie's family in relation to a suitable tribute or a place of remembrance. This tragic, avoidable loss of life serves as a stark reminder that our current approach to water safety is a national crisis, and we must act with urgency to prevent further heartbreak in our communities. We particularly wish to acknowledge and commend the tireless work of Sam's Army in raising critical awareness of water safety and championing for those vital changes in local and national levels. I believe local authorities, schools and public services require stronger national support, guidance and legislation to effectively educate on safety risks of open water. I would like to thank Doncaster Culture and Leisure Trust for their continued effort in relation to water safety and free swim assessment. Thank you, Chair.
Item 13, minutes of joint authorities. The minutes are included as a hyperlink on your agenda to enable you to view them online. These minutes are included for information and not endorsement. Does any member wish to speak on this item? Can I ask a member to move to the minutes noted? Is that noted? Members, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business at today's meeting. I now declare the meeting closed.